So in our last discussion, we georeferenced the topographical sheet, and the importance of that georeferencing was it was different from the previous georeferencing which we done on the map of India and the map of the state of Uttar Pradesh. And if you recall, the difference was that we did not had the coordinates in absolute term. There were decimal figures were also in the topographical sheet of Aligarh, which we did in our last session, lab session. So you need to understand, and I have emphasized earlier also, that if the coordinates are in decimals, then we need to give space between the absolute number of latitude and then degree and minutes. For each one of them, we need to put space between them. So that was one very important point which I wanted to highlight. So now today we would do the digitizing, and if you recall in our last session, I explained to you that digitizing is the basic step to bring the non-spatial data also into spatial data, to transform it into spatial data. Not only non-spatial, even spatial. That means if it is a map, we want to bring it into the system and assign the coordinates which are displayed in the map so that the system recognize these coordinates, and that way the ground coordinates are transferred into the system, and that way the digital maps are being prepared. So this is an initial step to bring the non-spatial and spatial data, spatial information into digital form in the system, assigning them the coordinates. So that exercise we have already completed. Now today we will start with the digitizing different entities. If you recall, we have discussed and I've tried to explain you that all the geographic realities of the ground, they can be displayed in digital format, either in point format. The ground realities can be point entity or line entity or area entity. If it does not have any length and width in this in the map in which we are portraying any ground reality of a very small presence over the earth, the point entity which does not have any length and width in the map, that would be the point entity. And linear representation of ground realities would be through line entity. And if there is any area entity, that would be represented through polygon entity. So we would start with the point entity. So for that matter, first we would look into as to which map is the base map from where we would be drawing the point entity. So I will take the georeferenced map of topographical map, which in the last session we have a georeference. So what I will do, if you recall, I asked you to go into the explore these buttons which are here in menu bar and in toolbar. So first into menu bar, we would go to the layer here, and pulling it down, there would be add layer. So this add layer we have to work with, and then what kind of map we want to bring to the screen. And you recall we said that all the maps which have been georeferenced, they are scanned map. So they are all raster map. You recall we discussed that there can be raster format or the vector format. So here these maps which were georeferenced, they were the scanned maps and they were in raster format. So I would say that it's the raster map. So this kind of dialog box would appear in the screen, and I have to look into where this is existing. I have to look into it, and it is here, and I'll locate the map, and then I am adding it to the screen. So this is what the georeferenced map of our topographical sheet. Now, how I can say that it is georeferenced? In our previous discussion also, I tried to highlight that whenever we portray our map on the screen after georeferencing, if it is covering a large area of the earth, then surely you would get a definite tilt in the map. Now this tilt is because of that geographic space is put over the globe, which is spherical, put over the spherical earth. So because of that, it orients itself to the place which it is representing. So if it is a larger area of the earth, then it will be orient itself onto the globe, because or the spherical earth. But this is a very small area. It does not have even one latitude, one longitude extent. So this much area will not have that much of tilt. But if you look into the sides of this image, you would find a black line over there. That itself suggests that there is some kind of tilting has happened, and it signifies that it has been georeferenced. And if you look here, the error is also quite manageable, which is below 1. So the residuals are below 1 pixel, so that is quite acceptable. And secondly, if you scroll your mouse over this map, and you can see here the coordinates keep on changing. So this suggests, this gives us clear indication that it has been georeferenced. So we have completed this georeference in our previous session. Now we start with the vectorizing this map, where we would be bringing the point entity into the map. So what we will do, we would go to the layer again in the menu bar, pull it down, and here I would be clicking on create layer, because now we are creating a new layer or new data we are adding, we are creating. So that's why we are saying create layer. And when create layer, now you see we are vectorizing. So it's not from raster data, we are drawing vector information in the form of point, line, or area. So here in this case it's point. So I would click on new shapefile layer. Now this new shapefile layer is in vector format. That's the point which I wanted to highlight and emphasize, that you need to understand that from raster, when we are creating, recreating or extracting some information, this is happening in the vector format. So I'll click like this. Now I have to give some name to it. So I'll start with, I will give you the name is Aligarh, as this is the topographical, I'm sorry, it's, so I gave the file name as Aligarh. Now file encoding I'll leave like this. Then next is geometry type. Now this is very important and you need to understand this. There are many options. For example, the option is the entity, the vectorization could be in the form of point. It can be multi-point, where we can use different kind of locations for point as point entity. But then there can be line also and polygon also. So generally we use point, line, or polygon or area. So here right now I am clicking on point because we want to start with the point entity. So I have clicked on point, and then next would be very important, that is about the what kind of coordinate systems CRS which we are going to use. Now if you recall, by default it is coming as WGS 84. This is because our base map, the Aligarh topo sheet map, is georeferenced on this particular CRS. So we would continue with this CRS. We are not going to transform it. We are not going to change it. We will continue with the WGS 84. Now field is what? Field is what kind of attribute information you want to add here. So here I would say the attribute would be the point. Okay. So I'll say point. You can give any name. And then after naming the field, as I am saying, the naming the field means that what kind of attribute you want to add. So I am simply, since it's a beginning, it's not a project, it's just to explain you as to how you can digitize different entities, ground entities into map. So right now we are looking into the point. So point entity, point has been named. The next is what kind of data, what kind of attribute information you want to add with this field. So here the options are text data or whole number. Whole number means absolute figure. Then there may be decimal number or there may be date. So I'll continue with text data. Why? Because I would be naming the point. And if that point had some value, for example, if we would have a benchmark is where the spot heights, you can take spot heights, or in the spot height, if the height of bench is also added, that is known as benchmark. So if we are dealing with some kind of measurable attribute which would be represented in some digits, then we would take the whole number. And if there are also decimal, for example, if I take say rainfall at any location and it is something around say 25 centimeter and 5 millimeters, something like that, then what we have to do? We would use the decimal number. So that kind of thing is required here, consideration required here. So I'll be continuing with the test data. So it's like this. Then I'll say add field to. So this will come, and you can here add as many field as you want, but that's up to you. If you are representing any point entity or any entity which has many variables, attribute information associated with that particular geographic entity which you are representing, then you can add as many field as you want, as required. Only thing is that you have to name it uniquely. Second is what kind of data, that means type you have to select, either it is text data or any other, as I have said, that it can be whole number, decimal number, whatever it is, that option you have to take into consideration. Then length, you leave it like this because that's related with the table's length, so it is all okay, and I'll say okay. So now what happens? Now you would see that here this has come. Now it's very important when you are dealing with a lot many data, then you need to understand that whatever is selected, whatever map is selected, whatever active map, that needs to be highlighted, and it needs to be selected also by tick mark. For example, here if I'll do this, it will disappear. So that means that it is active, but this map is not active, it is only displayed. But when it is active, the Aligarh point map is active because it is highlighted and it is also selected. This means that now it is ready in the editing mode. So now we will go and we will click on this pen. This is for activating the editing mode. And when we will click this, some more features will appear. And since it's a point data, we will click over here. So when we will click here, and this sign will come along with the cursor, and then if I can zoom, so here you can see, I'll select that, and for example here I will click here in one monument is visible here, so I'll click here. Okay, so when I'll click here, it will ask what it is. So I'll give ID as 1. And what is this point is representing? I will say it is monument. You can take anything, but I am whatever is visible, I am trying to highlight, try to use it. So I'll say okay, so that point will come. Now this point may not be visible now, but it will be visible now here. You see here. So this is the first point which we have taken. Now again, I will go back to the previous and then I'll take somewhere here. I hope that something, so here you see this is something which, another is here, you see this is Aligarh Fort. So I'll take this, and I will put here somewhere here, okay? It's here. So it is a polygon entity, but I am taking it as point entity. So I'll give it as 2, and here I will say fort, and I'll say okay. Then another can be anything like this is the medical college, so I'll click over here and I'll give it as 3, and here I would say medical college. So this is how we can add the point data. Now you see we have clicked 3, so these are the 3 points which have come up. That way we can add the point data. That's what is the objective of this particular exercise.